Let's talk Joe Flacco for a second. Final numbers, 34 of 46, 307, a touchdown on the shovel pass, and 2 interceptions, both of which were returned for touchdowns. Quarterback rating of 80.6. You see a guy throw for 300 yards in the playoffs, and on a day where it felt like Cleveland could only move the ball through the air, like those numbers aren't terrible. But they were bad in the wrong ways, right? You can't have interceptions returned for touchdowns. Obviously, the second interception was particularly bad. I think Cleveland had a lot of fun with Joe Flacco these last couple of months. And in my opinion, Joe certainly proved that he's not going to start next year sitting on his couch at home because nobody's going to call him and see if he can still do it. But part of the problem Cleveland ran into all season long, whether it was Joe or anybody else, they led the NFL in giveaways. Pretty banged up as the season moved along, and I think ultimately today it just kind of all snowballed in those specific aspects, and they couldn't overcome it.
You want to break it down and even get even more minute than that, right? The Browns were trailing by 10 points, two-score game. They were across the 50-yard line going into score, and Joe Flacco kind of got hung up with a guy on his back trying to throw it away. He talked about it in his post-game presser. He should have just thrown it at the feet of the guy in front of Elijah Moore. He was trying to get out of bounds. Was unable to do so. The result, an 82-yard interception return that goes from, let's pretend they get 3 more yards or 10 more yards and kick a field goal. It goes from a 1-score game to a 3-score game. And that was kind of the coffin, right? That was the nail in the coffin. And they come back the next drive, throw that pick six. My numbers I'm 95% sure they're right, but Browns will finish the year with 39 giveaways, which is insane. Insane. That's 2.5 a game, right? It's just you're not winning.
How'd they even win 11 games?
How do you win 11 games with 5 quarterbacks, 39 giveaways? It's just like, how do you even do that? And, we kept saying it all year long, don't turn it over. Well, they were able to get away with it against the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears and, some other teams in there. But in the playoffs, when you're facing one of the 14 best teams left in the NFL, you turn the ball over, you lose the football game. And that's just as simple as it gets. And they did it today, and it came back to bite them in the worst way.
I have to think Joe Flacco is not going to be back with the Browns next year. You never really rule anything out, but I think it is extremely unlikely that he's back in Cleveland. And for everybody that wants to have this Watson versus Flacco debate, I just don't think that's even reasonable unless something unforeseen and drastic changes. You've got a quarterback on your roster that you owe $68 million to each of the next 3 years. And you've got Joe Flacco, who is about to turn 39 years old and could certainly still play, but he's probably going to command a dollar amount that you're not going to pay a backup quarterback to, considering what you're giving your starting quarterback. And when Deshaun's healthy, I know we've seen some ups and downs from him. I don't want this to be a Deshaun Watson focused show. You're committed to that guy. You paid a lot of money to him. And so you got to find a way to make it work. Yeah. And I think maybe this team will find out that they grew a lot through some unbelievable adversity this year. And this is going to sting, but I don't think there's no quarterback controversy here, in my opinion. Deshaun Watson's going to be your quarterback next year. And so it's a disappointing way to say, most likely to say goodbye to Joe Flacco, because he poured his heart into this team. He made it very clear how much he liked being here and how much he loved playing for this city. And it just didn't end the way they wanted it to.
Yeah, I don't think I'm unique in this feeling, but it's the disappointment obviously is in the loss, but it's also just a disappointment with how much fun we were having, right? Like this past month was awesome. It was hands down, it was awesome. We were throwing for 300 yards a game. Flacco had never even done that in his career. He threw for 4 straight 300-yard games, and we were doing this crazy stuff and scoring a bunch of points, throwing the ball over the field, and it was fun to watch. And, like you said, you think that you're happy for Joe. He's going to be on a team next year for sure. But it's we were talking about this today. It was maybe this is a good situation for him. Maybe not ours specifically, but one where it's hey, we're not going to require you to play 20 games or 15 or 17 games or whatever it may be. Hey, let's be a backup to a guy. And if something happens, you're ready for the stretch run, because, Brendan, he was fantastic these last couple of weeks. And, you know, you don't know how a 39-year-old, he's turned 39 on Tuesday, but you don't know how a 39-year-old is going to hold up in the NFL over a course of an entire year. But when he's called upon, that dude can still sling it. And, you know, truthfully, you know, like you said, this is going to sting and hurt. But this last month and a half has been awesome. It's been so much fun.
Yeah, it has. And I certainly anticipate there's a bright future for this team.